Morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for squeezing this in for the holiday. Appreciate it.
No worries, of course. Thanks for being here and doing all that you do.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Chief.
Morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Okay, we're all set. We're good to go.
Okay. Thank you. For the purpose of the gavel, I'll just knock on my desk. And we'll substitute that. For the record, my name is Tanya Fernandez Anderson, District 7 City Councilor. I am the Chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Arts and Culture, Entertainment, and Tourism and Special Events. Today is July 3rd, 2024. This hearing is being recorded. It is being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-TV and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, FiOS Channel 964. In accordance to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2021, modifying certain requirements of the open meeting law and relieving public bodies of certain requirements, including the requirement that public bodies conduct its meetings in a public place that is open and physically accessible to the public. The City Council will be conducting this hearing remotely. This enables the City Council to carry out its responsibilities while ensuring public access to its deliberations through adequate alternative means. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.ac@boston.gov and will be made a part of the record and available to all councilors. Public testimony will be taken at the end of this hearing. If you are interested in testifying, please email our Central Staff Liaison, Megan Kavanaugh, at megan.kavanagh@boston.gov for the link, and your name will be added to the list. Today's hearing is on docket number 0903, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $300,000 in the form of a grant for the Arts and Culture Access Fund awarded by the Boston Foundation to be administered by the Office of Arts and Culture. The grant will fund and support fund the support of the Cultural Access Pilot Program, BPS Sundays, from the Boston Foundation. During also docket 0904, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $200 in the form of a grant for the FY24 Local Cultural Council program awarded by the Massachusetts Cultural Council to be administered by the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. The grant will fund innovative arts, humanities, and interpretive sciences programming that enhances the quality of life in the City of Boston. Docket number 0905, message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $250,000 in the form of a grant for the Cultural Access Fund awarded by the Barr Foundation to be administered by the Office of Arts and Culture. The grant will fund support for the Cultural Access Fund pilot program, helping to support BPS Sundays initiative across several arts and cultural institutions. Docket 0906, message and order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $150,000 in the form of a grant, BPS Sundays pilot program support awarded by Pilot House Philanthropy to be administered by the Office of Arts and Culture. The grant will fund the learning and evaluation component of the BPS Sunday pilot program. These matters were sponsored by the administration and referred to the committee on June 5th, 2024. Today, I am joined by my colleagues in order of arrival: Council President Louis-Jean, Councilor Flynn, and Councilor Murphy. In terms of opening remarks, I just want to state that as the chair of the Committee of Arts and Culture, Tourism, and Special Events, I work to ensure that as a city, we create opportunities for people of all backgrounds, income, statuses, and lived experiences to access the abundant arts and culture spaces in our city. But specifically, these grant fundings are programmatic funding for the Arts and Culture Department to be expended. And I would like this conversation to be specifically around how these funds will be spent. And if there are concerns about protocols or processes or decisions on policies on who should benefit from this program, I think that is a separate conversation with administration or otherwise a hearing order that any of my colleagues can feel free to file. So I am not interested in managing or policing anyone's conversations in terms of what they can ask or can't ask, but I ask for respectful dialogue and exchange in terms of keeping in mind what the chief is charged to do here and what this conversation should be about. So I will be redirecting our conversation if I feel that it's going outside of talking specifically about programmatic expenditure. And so I'm going to ask my colleagues if they have an opening statement by show of hands. And then if you have opening statements, we'll do 30 seconds of that. We'll go straight to the chief for her opening remarks and presentation, and then into questions. I know that everyone is having very long days and nights with all of these summer events. So I'm hoping to get us out of here within an hour, possibly. Councilor President Loujain, and then Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for holding this, especially on the eve of Independence Day. Happy Independence Day to everyone. Again, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you again to Chief for holding these. And I just want to start by saying thank you to the foundations who are pouring into our city with these contributions that are so important to help support the work that we're doing. I'm excited to learn more about the local cultural council program that was awarded by the Mass Cultural Council. They do really exceptional work to talk about what that's going to look like. And, it's going to fund innovative arts, humanities, and interpretive science programming. I would love to learn a little bit more about that. And Chief, I'm sure you're going to go into detail. So just excited to hear from you. Thank you, Chief. And thank you again, Madam Chair, and to my colleagues for being here. And again, happy July 4th and Independence Day to everyone.
Thank you, Madam President. Councilor Flynn, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm going to, during the Q&A period, I will make sure I edit my questions. I was going to focus on more other aspects of these grants, but I listened to your instructions and want to follow them as closely as I can. The only challenge or concern I have is, Madam Chair, we weren't able to have a public hearing on Sundays for All. And this is really our first time speaking about it. The chair told us that we couldn't have a hearing on the subject. So, but again, I want to be respectful to you and in your process. So I will edit and rearrange my questions for the chief.
Council President Flynn, I do appreciate your respect for this process that I've instructed on today. I'm looking forward to supporting you in any listening session or conversations with the administration to figure that part of things. I do think that some of your questions, most of your questions, should be answered by the administration. And by that, I mean the mayor's office. Thank you. All right. Councilor, we've been also joined by Councilor Ben Weber. Councilor Weber, we were just doing 30 seconds introductions and then presentation from Chief Carr and then into a line of questions. I will allow 8 minutes to your full questions, one round, and then we're wrapping it up. If there's any public testimony, we'll do that. Do you have an opening statement?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I think I froze. Thank you, Chair. Just looking forward to learning about these grants and what the city is doing for the arts, and look forward to being a part of the conversation. Thank you.
You're welcome. Chief, always a pleasure having you here. Looking forward to hearing your presentation, and then we'll go straight to questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, counselors. Appreciate the time again for the holiday to review these external grant funds for the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. I'm going to just touch briefly on the two programs that are being supported with these funds, give a quick overview, and then happy to answer any questions, and also can provide some documentation and things as follow-up. So the first $297,000 for the local cultural council is our annual allocation from the state, from the Massachusetts Cultural Council, for our grants to organizations, which is an annual program. That's where we more than match the state's allocation with the arts and culture operating budget every year. The total investment in FY24 was $927,000 for this program. So the funding that you're looking at right now, and this is every year, the Massachusetts Cultural Council funding actually arrives at our front door after the grant process has already happened. So everything that we're talking about right now is for FY24. And the only change to the program this year that I wanted to share with you all is that we decided to increase the impact of the grants by doubling the maximum grant size to $10,000. So previously the maximum was $5,000, and now that is the floor of what one can receive. So this does mean that this year it was a little bit more competitive of a grant because there's fewer grants being made, but it's also part of a longer term strategy to keep increasing the amount from the arts operating budget that goes to this program, especially as we're transitioning out of American Rescue Plan Act funds. So the hope is that that total number that goes to this program just keeps increasing over time. And this is the largest amount total between city and state funds that we've been able to award. So this year we received 252 applications requesting a total of $2.3 million. And those applications were reviewed by an external constituent grant advisory team who recommended 104 grants for MOAC to award through the Boston Cultural Council. So that's the funding that you're reviewing today that will allow us to pay out the grants that are allocated to come from state funding. And per usual, it's a really amazing mix of organizations from every neighborhood in the city. Everything from theater, performance arts, spoken word, design, media. I think dance and music were our biggest discipline categories this year. Social practice art, choreography, ceramics, sort of anything you can think of creative is getting some funding through this program. And also the majority of the grantees have the smallest budgets that we award, the smallest budget category. So we've been trying really hard every year to focus these funds on community-based, small organizations. This is for many of them, the only open application that they have access to in the city to get general operating support. So it really helps them kind of keep doing the work that they're doing every year. And so we're really excited to be able to provide that. It's also often a stepping stone grant for organizations, so it might be the first or only grant that they receive on an annual basis, and then that helps them kind of get into receiving updates from our office, learning about other opportunities, and we build relationships from there. So that is the Boston Cultural Council program. Happy to answer any more questions and share more detail about that. The other accept and expense that you have in front of you are for the BPS Sundays program. So this program is really about our commitment to ensuring that every young person can have access to the cultural assets of our city. It's a partnership between the city, BPS, and 6 cultural institutions that are offering free access to BPS students and up to 3 of their family members on the first 2 Sundays of each month. And this is a pilot program. So this is the first time that we've done anything like this. And when I say we, I mean, as far as I know, this is the first time that the city at all has done anything like this in partnership with institutions. So this is really a chance to learn and to build what that partnership looks like. The 6 institutions that we're working with are the Boston Children's Museum, the Institute of Contemporary Art, the Museum of Fine Arts, New England Aquarium, and the Franklin Park Zoo. I feel like I'm missing one. I'm missing one. Museum of Science. I didn't say Museum of Science. So those are the 6. This program is being financially supported by a combination of raised funds, like what you have in front of you, in-kind subsidy by each of the institutions, and city funding. So it's really taking kind of everyone to pitch in. Everyone has skin in the game. And so the funding that's in front of you is part of the initial round of this program. It's funding the pilot program, not a future iteration of the program. And it's also funding evaluation. So we have somebody who's coming on board to really look at the data, interview the institutions, interview families, do survey work to really understand, who is this reaching? How is it being received? What are some of the other barriers to not just taking advantage of the program, but reaching, accessing, and feeling a sense of belonging at these institutions? So it's been, I think, a really exciting and new partnership, and the pilot round of this program lets us at least have a baseline of information. So when I say that it's all new and hasn't been done before, it really hasn't. Like, we really don't know, right? Like, if we have a free program, how many students come? What are the busy days? Are these the right days? Are they the right times? And so we're really starting from the very, very beginning. That's part of why the BPS partnership is so helpful, because through BPS, we're able to get more information on who's coming, from what neighborhoods, et cetera. So some preliminary numbers that I can share with you. 16,700 tickets were redeemed under this program in the first 3 months. Almost 10% of the total BPS student population that has used the program at least once. And one way to kind of think about that is that one of the arts requirements for BPS is, some amount of exposure to an arts and culture class opportunity. And so I think about this in this category, right? Like, ideally, young people who are coming to these institutions take advantage of some of their other programs as well, and maybe get access to kind of everything that institution has to offer. But even being able to access the Museum of Science or the MFA one time counts as that arts exposure, and hopefully opens the door to a lot of other opportunities and an understanding of what's available. Among the 10% of the BPS students who have used this at least once, 24% have used the program more than once to go to different institutions. So we're seeing, once somebody goes to one place with their family, they're going to another one that's a part of the program. They're maybe rotating through, taking advantage of all the institutions that are participating. So that's been really interesting to see. And then the last thing I wanted to share, just from our preliminary numbers, is that many students are using the program to visit an institution for the first time. And not every institution can collect exactly the same information, but this kind of goes back to how this is allowing for that first exposure to an arts and culture or science or interpretive humanities opportunity. So we've seen that at some institutions on a given Sunday, that number of first-time attendees through this program is as high as 53%. So that's huge. And personally, I get really excited about those numbers. So maybe I'll stop there. There's still information coming in. We're still collecting. We have an evaluator who's being contracted right now, so there will be more to share on that front. Yeah, I'll pause there and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief. It sounds exciting and it makes sense, right? We have a pilot program that is doing really well. We tested it with a certain number, right? And now we want to evaluate it so that we can figure out how to improve it. Sounds practical. I love the program, especially when you said most of these students are visiting these places for the very first time. That's transformative. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Council President Lujan, you have 8 minutes if you need it all.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Chief. I want to just echo what the Chair said about it being really transformative. It just had me harken back to the days when, the first time that I went to the Museum of Science, and how powerful that was for me as a BPS student, and memories of taking other young kids there. And yeah, it's just really powerful. My question actually starts with grant, the $297,200 grant from the Mass Cultural Council. Can you tell me what the name of the grant is when we put it out into community? What's the name of that grant?
Yeah, they're the Boston Cultural Council grants.
BCC grants. Does your office administer other grants?
We also have grants to individual artists. We have the Downtown Neighborhood and Downtown Activation Grant, which is ARPA funded, and that's to fund neighborhood and citywide events, cultural events that are free to the public. It's not open at this point, but we're still paying out a multi-year grant through ARPA called the Cultural Investment Grant. So we have maybe 4 or 5 at any given time. We've also been doing Cultural Space Fund grants, which is specific facilities.
Okay, and so these grants, the Boston Cultural Council grants, the floor went from 5,000 to 10,000. Did you shrink and it sounds like fewer people will now be recipients of the grant. What would that number change?
The number change, I would have to double check. I think we were in the mid hundreds before. And in my time, that number has kind of gone down, and we've been somewhere in like the 100 to 150-ish number of grants as we've sort of stabilized what we want that program to look like. But the goal, I think, now is to increase just the overall budget for that program, because it is tough. There's like so many organizations that we would love to fund. And
what is the budget?
The budget right now, we're getting close to $1 million. And
$1 million. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's just dependent on
state funding.
It's dependent on state funding, which is based on a calculation. And so that's not going to go up dramatically anytime soon. So that's just our operating budget. And our operating budget is about 4.5. So we are dedicating like a decent chunk of our operating budget to this. And it's just about balancing all of those priorities. The biggest difference between how Boston does this kind of program versus other cities is just that other cities often have like an arts and culture fund that's generated from like a hotel tax or some other sort of revenue source. So since we don't have that here, we have to kind of hold all of these things within our operating budget. But ideally, that number that gets allocated to the Boston Cultural Council is incrementally increasing over time as our budget increases.
Mm-hmm. That's a reason probably for us to have a local option on some of the taxes that would allow for like additional revenue stream into that department. Okay. Are there any, so this grant covers innovative arts, humanities, and interpretive science programming, which seems like, I don't know what the lines are. It seems pretty broad. Are there artist or arts activities that like wouldn't be covered by BCC grants? Like, are there people like, well, actually, this would not be a good grant for you to apply to? I want to understand sort of like who's the opt-out, since the opt-in seems pretty general. Not the opt-out, but like who's not included.
I would say it's definitely geared towards organizations. So if individual artist or an artist collective, we do grant to fiscally sponsored groups, but it's much more geared towards nonprofits. So an individual artist or like an artist-led project, if you're really doing a one-off project or a one-off kind of event, as opposed to sustaining an organization, then we have other opportunities for you.
Okay.
In terms of discipline and content, it is really broad, and we get all sorts of different kinds of organizations, different disciplines, and that's sort of intentionally that way because like people are doing creative work in so many ways.
Thank you, Chief. That's helpful. And then my last question, Chair, I hope if I have some time, is just about you said right now you're contracting regarding someone to evaluate BPS Sundays. And I think it's really important, like everything should be data driven, everything should be rooted in sort of like, how are we doing, how are we evaluating this to know whether it's successful, the point of a pilot program. So can you talk a little bit about what that looks like when you say we're in the service? Is there an RFP out? Are you working with a person who's going to help evaluate? Like, what does the evaluation look like? And I know that that's what one of the grants is for, so maybe it's not fully developed. It looks like that's what the Pilot House Philanthropy Grant is for. So if you could talk a little bit about what that looks like, the evaluation end and who and the what, as much as you have.
Yeah, so we are reviewing the respondents to an inclusive quote contract right now. So hoping to turn that around hopefully for next week. And then we'll be able to share who that is. The scope that we drafted is really focused on, in all of the work and all of the like nitty gritty and on the one hand, really nitty gritty detail, like does an institution have this field in their database where they can collect this piece of information, all the way to, the leadership that's been really shown and needed from all of these institutions in order to collaborate on something like this. Something that we don't want to lose in all of the conversation is, what is the definition of success as defined by and for families and young people? So that's a big part of the scope, right? Is like actually interviewing with families, with young people who both have used the program and have not used the program, who might be sort of like frequent flyers at these institutions, to have never gone to any of these institutions, to really understand, what does it mean for a program like this, a free access program, to work for you? What are the kinds of things you would want to see? Mm-hmm. What makes you feel like welcome in this space once you do get in the front door, right? Because this is all about getting in the front door, but then there's the whole experience of what it's like once you're there. So that's what a lot of the scope is focused on, is getting feedback from the participants themselves. And while we have data that's coming in about the numbers, we're really, really excited about having like that level of detail about the user experience.
Awesome. Thank you, Chief. Really appreciate it. And thank you, Chair.
All right. If for my colleagues, if you're interested in staying back for a closing statement, happy to allow that. Councillor Flynn, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chief. Chief, the Sundays for All, I want to ask, and I know you captured some good data. The Sundays for All for BPS students. Can you give me a breakdown, demographics on what neighborhoods these students are coming from, and the breakdown? I'd like to know communities of color, also how they're participating, or what numbers they are participating in this. I think that's very important for me to ensure that students of color are participating in this program as well. But can you give me the breakdown on that?
Yeah, I don't know that neighborhoods is in front of me right now, although I can follow up with geographic information. I just don't have it kind of synthesized in front of me at the moment.
Okay.
But we know that in the first few months, around 70% of the students who used the program, about 70% of the students who used the program in February and March are BIPOC students at BPS. So
can you say that? I didn't hear you. Can you say that again, please, Chief?
Yeah, around 70% of the students who used the program in February and March are BIPOC students.
Oh, okay. Thank you. For the Sundays for All, so that was a combination of city funding. It was also a combination of foundations. Can you just name the foundations for me?
Yes, so we have funding from Amazon, Highland Street, BAR, Pilot House, and the James M. and Catherine D. Stone Foundation. And the Pilot House funding is the funding that's really allocated for evaluation.
And how did the City of Boston ask these foundations to participate?
How did we ask?
Yes.
Having conversations. I know different parts of the mayor's office having conversations with a lot of different foundations about a variety of mayoral initiatives. And as this one was coming together, realizing that we needed additional funds, but I think also wanting, again, a variety of stakeholders to be invested in a program like this, just given the level of partnership that's required. And I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, but we had the specific program, Sundays for All, and then we approached the foundations to ask for funds. Is that basically how we did it?
Yeah, and these are all groups that have funded arts and culture or even free days specifically at institutions before.
Okay. Any concerns of having Amazon participate?
I have not heard any concerns about having Amazon participate.
Okay. I know a couple people asked me, was there any concern in the city with Amazon? I know they have had challenges with worker-related issues, and just wanted to highlight that if that was even discussed.
Yeah, I'm not aware of discussions around that. I know that they had granted directly to arts organizations in the past. But I don't know any more detail about those conversations.
Was federal funding also used for this program?
We have used ARPA funding.
So we had federal funding, city funding. Was state funding used too?
No state funding has been used.
Okay. I know we're trying to get some more information from the administration. We requested some information. Maybe you'll have it for us in the next couple of days, but we've requested information, but we haven't received that. Did you receive our request, Chief?
I don't think I have your request, but I can coordinate and help provide information.
Okay. And I'm asking these specific questions because the chair didn't want us to have a city council hearing on this subject, so it was important for me to at least get some background information before I'm able to vote. I have a little bit more information now than I did previously because we just weren't able to schedule the vote for so many different reasons. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Council Flynn. Could you clarify for the record which chair didn't want to hold the hearings? Because I don't want the public to confuse it with this hearing, with this committee.
Yeah, I believe it was the chair of education, if I'm not mistaken, but I do believe it was education.
Thank you, Council Flynn.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Councilor Murphy, you have 8 minutes if you need it all.
Thank you. And thank you, Chair of Arts and Culture. Yes, this was originally in with the Chair of Education when we filed a hearing to talk about the program, the BPS Sundays. We were calling it Sundays for All, hoping to expand, but in 2 council meetings ago, the Chair of Education did ask that these grants get separated, and it was put into this committee. So thank you for asking for clarification, and I did want to be clear on that also, that the chair here, Councilor Fernandez-Anderson, thank you for having this hearing, because there are questions that I definitely have. Do want to start off by saying always wonderful to see when families are using, and enjoying our museums, the 6 institutions that that we know are part of this program. Also, the intention, as we know, isn't that families who have memberships, I know that some of the institutions were worried that families who have memberships to museums would then, put their memberships on hold, maybe not pay for this year, and use this pilot program. That the intention, obviously, is that we're using funds that could, we just came off of budget season and amendments where we know, $50,000, $100,000 can really make a difference. So when we're committing, and if I'm correct, we may have spent more, but the last answer I got is that we're spending $300,000 of opera funds. $300,000 came from Amazon, and then the other was from a mix of different foundations that you mentioned. And the original expectation would be that this initiative would cost $1 million. Do you have an idea, Chief, of if we've spent more than that, if we're not even close to that? Where are we, knowing that we're winding down soon the last month of this pilot program?
I think our total of what we have committed is 700,000. That does not include the evaluation, and that was the initial amount of time, I think, through the summer. That might be the through August number. I think as we're just now being contracted with the evaluator, we probably need a little bit more time to get.
Who is that evaluator?
They're not under contract yet, but
How much are we paying them?
The budget that we have for everything evaluation related is $150,000. That's the pilot
Just
funding.
get information, because I had requested and got an answer for the first two, I guess the first four sessions, because it's the first two Sundays, the first 2 months, where I was able to get, which schools the students were coming from, which grades they were in, what more information do we need to decide whether or not this is successful. Because that's what 15% of the total budget is being spent on an evaluator to decide if it was, are we able, if you can just speak to that, that'd be good.
Yeah, so I don't know that we'll actually, it's not clear yet if we're going to spend down that entire amount on evaluation, but that's what that grant is restricted for, and that's the size of the grant. I think, like I was saying earlier, that the evaluation budget is the only funding that we have to support engaging families directly and getting into more detail about, specifically from them, about what their experience is like, because everything else is just kind of numbers based on who's actually showing up at the institutions, but we don't know, what does that experience feel like? Did you find out about a program that you now want to take advantage of? Is there a reason that, you've only gone to this one institution? So there's just like a lot of information there that we need help in order to gather and synthesize, and that'll be done through focus groups as well as.
And is it true that the information you collect will be for not just kind of wrapping up this pilot program to say we did a good job, but it's because you're intending on expanding it and continuing it?
I mean, we would love to expand and continue it. There are a lot of ways in which we can do that. And so part of the evaluation is also to help us understand what those are. And just like the number of levers to pull in this is a lot. So there are things like the amount of the subsidy, which we started with. The $300,000 from the city is just kind of, again, based on our sort of best estimate of what this might cost, because it's never been done before, and we had no baseline data about how many people would use it and how often. So there's the subsidy, there's the days of the week. Are Sundays, the first two Sundays of the month, the right day? Does it need to think about other days or times? And hearing directly from families about that will be really, really important. There's the branding and communications. There's who qualifies. There's who else is interested in putting money towards it. There's a lot of other barriers that free access doesn't address, like transportation is really big.
Yeah. Lunch while you're there. Yeah. How do you park if you're driving? Yeah. All the other costs that could also be barriers. Is any part of that conversation, or was any part of the task that was given to the evaluator that you hired on expanding it so that all children and families in the city of Boston are able to access it? Was that ever brought up?
It's not explicitly a part of the scope, but I think eligibility as a question is something that we're definitely thinking about. And we just don't know, similar to how we went into this pilot period, not knowing exactly what that would take or what it would cost. We're still trying to understand what it would take to make different kinds of changes to the program.
And it's a wonderful program. Like I've said from the beginning, as a Boston public school teacher for 24 years, field trips were some of the best days of the year. Oftentimes would fundraise, myself, to make sure that kids, because even just getting the bus can be $20 per family just to get the bus to get to the museum and then get the entrance fee and lunch. So, but having that experience, even if it's once or twice, kids remember that. And so I do agree that it's wonderful that we're offering it. I've been very vocal that I hope we can offer it to more families. And also when we consider the eligibility, because this is using ARPA funds and leaning on nonprofits that may be funding other opportunities for us. Has there ever been a thought of, like when we think of, programs like a sliding scale fee, there are families who could otherwise afford it not be able to take advantage of this, so that we could then expand it to families who we know financially cannot afford it?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. There are a lot of other ways to think about the subsidy and who exactly is being supported with the public funds. And this is also part of what we're doing now and talking to each of the institutions about how the pilot period has gone, because a lot of these organizations are also already offering different kinds of entry discounts or different opportunities, like the ICE free to anyone under the age of 18, regardless of school and all of that. So I think part of what we're trying to understand is, given everyone's business models and what are some of the options for how we shape this? And I think the cost is of expanding in any way, because another option is also to add more institutions, right? Have it apply to more places, more anchor institutions in Boston. But everything also comes with thinking about cost and how we're making sense of that. So that is part of it as well.
How we're spending our money, right? One last question. You said that.
Councillor Murphy, hold your question. I will come back to you after Councillor Weber. Thank you. Councillor Weber, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And just, I caught the tail end of your kind of instructions, Chair, at the beginning, but I think I understand them. But if I go against them, just feel free to interrupt me and assume I'm just.
Councillor Weber, you have 8 minutes, and then I asked anyone to stay behind if they had additional comments or questions.
I meant the sort of the clarification of sort of the limits of these questions, as opposed to there's a hearing order. I got it.
Let's stick to the program, the pilot itself, how we're spending this money, and then let's look at, if we're talking about policy-wise, or questioning the policy or expanding. I think we're talking about evaluations coming our way to figure out how to improve and expand. I think that's a follow-up conversation, not for this hearing.
Yeah, thanks. That's what I gathered. I just want to think you to think that I was not following your advice. I'm just because I missed the beginning of the hearing. But thank you. I guess Chief, thank you for testifying. You mentioned 16,700 tickets through BPS Sundays. How did that compare with what you were expecting, hoping, going into the program? And I guess we're not even done. I think it ends. Does it end next month?
Yeah, I mean, we really didn't. I've said this a couple times. It's really true that we didn't know what to expect. I think we've been really pleased with the numbers and the amount of engagement, but particularly the number of people who are using, the number of families who are using the program more than once to go to different institutions, I think shows like a really great proof of concept that when we are advertising this with BPS and we're able to have some of this data, we can see what the impact is, right, of having a program like this, including that first time attendee number. So having some places where more than half of the participating young people and families are there for the first time really shows, again, I think really great proof of concept. But the actual numbers, we didn't know necessarily what to expect. And for some of the institutions, I think they are used to a free day, resulting in like a real flooding of their spaces. And so they maybe had a little bit more of a sense of what that might look like. But this is the first time that a free access program has been at the same time on the same days across this many institutions and repeated over many months. And so I think at the end of this, we'll be able to see a little bit of like what's the seasonal difference in school, when school is going on versus summer. Like we saw the Mother's Day was on one of the days and we saw a dip right on Mother's Day, which makes sense. So we're just going to be discovering some different patterns like that. But overall, really, really excited about the number of students from the spread across neighborhoods and schools, and the first-time visitors.
I'm sorry, I think you talked about, so we talked about free days. Had the city been involved with free days in the past, or you're just talking about the museums themselves?
Yeah, the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture has not been involved in free days in the past. And I've been with the city for almost 9 years. And we have not had this much engagement with institutions at this level. So we might, share like an ad for a free day, like we might help market just on our social media platforms and that kind of thing, but we have not been this embedded.
Okay, and then I guess from in your experience and from where you sit, I mean, how has COVID affected our museums in terms of the attendance, how they're doing? I haven't really read much